Welcome back to My Trauma's Chronic but My Iconics podcast, where real stories meet raw healing and where we're not afraid to have the conversation our communities have been avoiding for generations. Today's episode is one that hits deep. We're talking about the silent weight carried by so many Tamil men, the emotional walls, the generational expectations, and the unspoken truth passed down through love, duty, and survival. My guest is the incredible Raj Sinna, a special education needs worker and rising mental health content creator whose work is challenging outdated ideas of masculinity, emotional expression, and cultural silence in the Tamil community. This isn't just about having a conversation about mental health, it's a conversation about unlearning, about reparenting ourselves, about making space for softness in cultures that often only reward strength. Whether you're Tamil, South Asian, or someone simply navigating your own healing, this episode will meet you where you're at and hopefully push you one step closer to where you want to be. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so we can continue doing the work we're doing and making a real impact on the world. Grab a cup of tea, get cozy, and let's get started. Can you tell us about yourself and your background?
Sure. My name is Rajivan, Raj for short. I'm 23 years old. So I have this like underlying passion since I was young for psychology, ever since I've started doing GCSE psychology, and mental health is something that I've grew up around. It's something that I've witnessed from a young age. I've seen around the people around me. So it's a topic that I'm very passionate in. So in 2021, I started a page called Open Talk, which was initially like a mental health helpline, a mental health page, just to promote mental health awareness during lockdown, which was a tough time. And especially after I felt really mentally low at the time. But then I managed to overcome that and I wanted to share the importance of mental health through that. And yeah, I just guess I'm just an ordinary Tamil guy that just likes to promote mental health on my page.
You say the word ordinary at the
Yeah.
same time you're a Tamil guy speaking about mental health. That is nothing ordinary about
I think
that.
I think in the world that we live in now, especially through platforms such as TikTok and stuff, there are actually a lot of people that, in my opinion, talk about mental health, but they never explicitly say, today we're talking about mental health. They might talk about their journey through gym. We see a lot of like gym TikTokers. They might talk about the journey through a certain passion, or like they might make videos about self-improvement, self-care. To me, that's mental health in itself. But yeah, I guess with me, I just say I'm talking about mental health. I guess that's maybe the difference.
I think there's such a power and courage about talking about mental health so explicitly.
Mm,
I think usually, there's nothing, people do not need to talk about explicitly, each their
yeah,
own. But I think to be able to say that as a South Asian Tamil man
yeah.
is amazing.
Thank you. I
Well,
just think it's a very taboo topic as well. Like it is something that needs to be spoken about, especially in our culture and our background.
definitely, I think it's so needed. And I feel like slowly but surely, I think that's in our generation, there's a
Yeah,
level of healing that is being done.
yeah, 100%.
What's a moment in your everyday life, whether it's at work or at home, where you notice the need for more mental health awareness in our culture?
Um, I would say definitely through it's definitely an everyday thing. I'll say through like social media, online, the Tamil people that I've known. But what really pushed me to start talking about Tamil mental health more is after I started my open talk page. So I grew up in Hertfordshire, which is a very predominant white area. So when I first started at Open Talk, it was never culture specific. It was just literally I want to get mental health awareness out there. And obviously, because most of my friends were white, it was just going to them. But then it came to a point where thankfully, people were sharing the stuff I was saying, and then it got more exposure, and like had people from like America seeing some of my stuff, and then I had people in India as well, and it made me start to think about more like South Asian mental health and how like mental health in India, for example, like the access to psychological support is not very openly available. But then what really pushed me was I remember this Tamil girl reaching out to me, and she spoke about her experience of SA within her childhood. And
Sorry, I just want to pause you. here, just really quickly. So when you mean essay, just because we don't, but because I know your platform is different, so
Yeah,
we have to use specific words. I just want to explain to audience, essay is either sexual assault or sexual abuse.
yeah. I didn't know what, because sometimes when you say it, they demonetize you, so that's why I didn't say it. But yeah, and obviously I have permission from the girl to share the story because I've reached out to her saying thank you very much for opening up to me about this because that's what's really pushed this passion even more. But yeah, so she got sexually assaulted by an uncle at the time, and she spoke about like how this was traumatic for her, and she didn't tell anyone about it growing up, and then it took her a lot of courage, and then eventually she did open up about it, and then when she told her mum about it, her mum's initial response was, "Oh, don't tell your dad; it'll become a big problem in the family." And I remember at the time when she told me, I was gobsmacked. I was like, "What the hell?" Because stuff like this is like things you see in films, and like it made me deep, like how in the Tamil community mental health is such a big thing, and it made me deep my own personal experiences, the stuff I witnessed, and I was like, culture is a root, it's a root of mental health. Like it's a big thing, especially within our culture. So then that really made me, you know what, like I need to take a more culture specific perspective in mental health. And then because I was doing a psychology degree at the time as well, and then I went on to do my master's in psychology. I did my dissertation in Tamil mental health. So I looked at how culture impacts mental health, and I specifically look at the Tamil community within the UK. And that really opened my eyes about how mental health needs to be more spoke about, more education and awareness is required within our community.
I think, yeah, I feel like I can relate so much of the girl. I feel like also kind of it also does highlight the expectations or the roles that gender does play in South Asian
Mm,
culture, the
definitely.
different standards. Because I mean this in the nicest way. It's not meant to be malicious, but like as a man, there's certain things I feel like in South Asian culture, and as a female, there's certain things I'm not privy to
Yeah.
in like a man's world, and the same goes for you. You know, what's in like how females are treated. Sometimes
Mm.
when you're not explicitly going through it, it's difficult. I'm using the word explicitly a lot. I can't think of another word, but when you're
Yeah.
not directly going through it, it's
100%.
you don't things just don't click. And even when you are directly going through it, it still doesn't click. It
Yeah.
takes a while. Um,
the
if someone,
labels the
sorry,
labels sorry that are within genders in our community, so like a man should be like this, a woman should be like this, it's so heavy and the impact of it is actually crazy. Like you obviously hear things, you hear like the older generation say, oh yeah, a girl needs to be like this, a boy should be like this, but then the label it comes with it, it's actually crazy, and like the impact it has as well.
I think it's so detrimental, and I don't think older people don't realize
Yeah.
the impact they have. And we'll go on about it later, but it's so understandable to an extent. It's not
Yeah.
excusable, but it's understandable given the
Mm.
nature of survival
Yeah.
with what's going on, still going on in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, of course. And like
Or
what they went through as well, and like the lack of education and awareness they have around mental health, and the lack of help because they've never had anyone they can talk to these things about. So they had to learn to go through it by themselves and just deal with it. So they kind of almost expect the same from us, but then also like they're very naive. Like obviously they say things, but then they might not realize the weight of what they're saying because it's been said to them in the past and they had to deal with it themselves.
mm, absolutely. If someone just found your page on social media,
Yeah.
they see a lot of content about mental health, healing, identity. But
Mm.
what's the deeper message you're hoping they walk away with?
The deeper message that I want them to walk away with is just opening up, just open up to anyone. It doesn't have to be a professional. It doesn't even have to be someone that you're close to if you don't feel comfortable with. Like you can open up to anyone, in my opinion, like even like a workmate, work colleague, someone that you know will just sit and listen to you. I think that's what I wanted people to walk away with. Just the power of opening up and the power of talking to people. And also, I want people to walk away with the power of listening to someone.
Mm,
Actively listening to someone does a lot for some people. Like with me, the best conversations I have with people are just where we have deep chats. And it's just like it's therapy in a way, because like when someone opens up to you, it can almost like heal you in a way, letting you know that, oh, someone is going through a similar thing as you. And it's the idea of empathy, being empathetic towards one another. It's so powerful. And that's an I think the power of empathy as well is something I want people to walk away with as well. Like empathy is such a key life skill, and like if you have it, it does it does so much healing. And yeah, I think those are the two things I want people to walk away with: opening up and the power of empathy.
What's a common reaction you would get from Tamil people when they find out you are talking openly about mental health? And what does that tell you about where we are as a community right now?
I think the reaction I get a lot is kind of shocked. They're like, damn, like a Tamil guy speaking about mental health, like, but in a good way. I've never had anything bad at all. Never had a negative response, which I'm grateful for. It's always been very positive and encouraging. But most of the time, people are like, "Oh, it's so nice to see a Tamil guy." Like they always say, "Tamil guy speaking about mental health." So that's two identities there, and it's like it shows like it just shows like how this topic is not spoke about enough, and especially it's nice to know that I'm representing the Tamil community and also being a man as well. It's very nice to know. But yeah, um, yeah, most people do find it shocking.
Yeah, I think that was my initial reaction. Was like, okay, your video came off my For You page, and I was like, wait, am I like? I was like, are you like? My thing was like, are you serious? Like, there's a
Yeah.
Tamil guy talking about mental health. Never seen it before, and I
Mm.
was like, okay, this is like, I'm barely seeing Tamil women
Yeah.
and girls speaking about mental health, and then to see a Tamil guy, I was like so shocked, but in such
Mm.
a good way. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like this is what's needed because I think a man can be vulnerable, and those two
Yeah.
things can coexist.
100%.
It doesn't make somebody less of a man, and I think
Yeah.
that's the message that I always thought, and it kind of reaffirmed that when I saw your video.
Yeah.
Um, was there ever a time you believed the stigma yourself where you didn't think talking about mental health had value?
100%. I'd say like when I was young, because like so I have a mental health background in my family as well. So like I have relatives with like bipolar and stuff like that. So when I grow up seeing them going through episodes, I used to think like, what is this? Like like it was just mad confusing for me to witness. And it was like at first I was like didn't really believe in it as much. I was just like, is this person like are they okay? Like I had no concept of mental health. Obviously, I was young as well. But then once you start looking into it more, you're learning about it. So like I said, my passion really started from when started doing GCSE psychology. And like you learn a bit about like depression, anxiety, and psychopathology. And then that gives you like a better understanding of like the studies that have been done, the research, the data to back therapy, medication, and stuff like that. And then you get to know how vulnerable and like how misunderstood these people really are. So yeah, I'd like to say I'm lucky that I managed to learn from a young age through my own experience and other people's experience as well. But yeah,
You work in a field that requires immense emotional pressure. Like, what
yeah,
parallels do you see between supporting the students? Because I know you're an SEM worker, correct me
yeah,
if I'm wrong.
yes,
So the students with additional needs or social emotional mental health needs and addressing the invisible needs within our own community.
yeah. So obviously, day to day, I work with a lot of kids with like ADHD, ASC, and I mainly also work kids with a lot of SEMH backgrounds, so social emotional mental health. And you see and how like behaviors at school. So like for example, kids that misbehave. When we went to school, we just think, oh, this kid's just annoying, or this kid's just haven't got nothing better to do but misbehave. But like behavior always has a root, and it comes stems from home. And a lot of these kids that misbehave, a lot of these kids are misunderstood. You'll be surprised about the mental health struggles they go through. And like working day to day with these kids, you see that side of mental health vulnerability and like that idea of being misunderstood, because they don't like talking about it because they don't talk about it at home. So they think there's no point talking about it at school because no one's going to listen to them. But being an SEM worker, and obviously thanks to my prior experience, I like to say I'm able to run like interventions and like one-to-one sessions with these kids where they're able to open up and be vulnerable. And there's a lot of other SEM workers as well that gets to see that side. And I think you just learn and see how like everyone has a mental health vulnerability. Mental health is around us every day, whether that's whatever culture you're from, whatever community you're from. So I think it's a real privilege to get to see that side. And like kids with like ADHD and ASC, there's obviously the term comorbidity. And I think a lot of kids with like ADHD and ASC, it's very unfortunate. I would say go on to be diagnosed with like depression, anxiety, and stuff like that. So yeah, so you get to see that side of kids, and it gives you like a wider look into mental health, not just like I said, as in a culture wise, but like community wise as well.
I think that is so true. I feel like as a person with autism and ADHD, I'm
Mm,
like, this is like it's like two very different things, but they coexist somewhat, not
yeah.
peacefully. It's like, and I'm just like, what is going on? They're very two different things, but the immense, like, the very intense feelings that you get, like
Mm,
exhaustion, a lot of
yeah.
fatigue, you're
Yeah.
burning out most of the time, everything, all of that, and you're isolating yourself because, the world is not incompatible with your needs. It's a very
Yeah.
neurotypical world that we live in. And it doesn't
100%.
surprise me a lot of people that end up with diagnosis of like with depression. And it's like I feel like
Mm,
when you are neurodivergent or have any disabilities, it's a trauma in
yeah.
itself, which people don't realize is this is affecting every single aspect of your life. And it's
Yeah.
absolutely crazy.
And
Um
it feels so
yeah,
misunderstood as well. Like to me, neurodiversity, I've learned through the years. Like I never thought I'd be working with kids, especially neurodiverse kids, because in the school I used to go to when I was secondary, there was no TAs. There was not really much of a concept of ADHD or ASC. I remember one of my mates had ADHD, but like school didn't really support it that much. But so when I stepped into this field of SEN, it was like a new world to me. But then seeing neurodiverse kids, like it's a real privilege because they are really like to me neurodiversity is special power because each kid they're always good at something, like always good at something. Some kids think they're useless but they're really not. They always have like a special power or talent in my eyes, and it's like they're the best type of kids to work with.
mm,
So yeah, so getting to see that day to day is truly a privilege. And like I said, it's just sad to see how they both coexist with one another. But yeah.
absolutely. I work with children with complex needs, whether it's social emotional mental health or behavioral or
Mm,
any other SEN needs. And the one thing is they are absolutely incredible and they can do things that other people can do much faster, much quicker.
mm,
If the world is adapted, they're already succeeding, but they would succeed on a different level.
yeah,
I know a young person who's written a book, like, and I feel like if it was published, it would be a bestseller within weeks. For
yeah.
them to write, I'm talking about is a trilogy. It took them a month to write a trilogy,
That is
and it's like
crazy.
I think each book is like 650 to 700 pages.
Yeah, exactly.
Give them a laptop, give them paper, whatever, they will write and write and write. It's
These
crazy
kids
and it's all
deserve
good.
way more exposure than they have, like in the like the talents and like the way they think is just incredible.
Absolutely. Your content blends vulnerability with education.
Mm.
Was there any internal battles you faced before deciding to go public with your mental health advocacy?
Um, yeah, like definitely. I think everyone have their own internal battles with mental health. Like I said, I think mental health is something every day, and like everyone in the world have experienced some sort of battle with mental health. But then with me, it was like obviously growing up, witnessing the things I have, seeing other people with disorders such as like schizophrenia, bipolar growing up. Like I have a very like strong passion in schizophrenia because like I know people in real life with schizophrenia and like hearing their stories and their experiences of it, it was really like touching because there's this whole like misconception around like schizophrenics and bipolar being that's like these serial killers. There's just this term being crazy, they're a psycho, but like if you really and truly understood what they go through, you'd understand the struggle and pain they have to face every day. But like in terms of my own battles, like it's just I've never been diagnosed with any mental health condition or anything, but I've experienced moments of being very mentally low to a point where I experience those phases of isolation, crying, being upset, extreme mood changes that period, especially during lockdown. I think a lot of people mentally during lockdown went through those phases and like going through that phase. And then all of a sudden, I opened up to my family members. So my sisters are the first people I ever opened up to about like deep personal thoughts. And that like changed my perspective in life completely. And like it made me realize the power of opening up thanks to my sisters. So then I took some time to myself just to like literally just love myself, the idea of self-love, like grasping it. And then because like so a couple months before any of this happened, I had this idea, oh, I want to start a mental health page just because of like my interest in mental health already. But then this like really pushed it. And then that's when I started doing this whole like sharing the vulnerability and the education and stuff like that. But like I've never on my if you on my content, I've never actually shared my own stories because everyone has their stories at the end of the day. And like it's obviously up to people whether they want to share it or not. But like I feel like people who watch my content can tell like I have my own story anyways, and everyone has their own stories. But I just want to promote the educational side of it by like teaching people about different disorders and like there's also some great stories already out there and like in my opinion like because like I said I've never been diagnosed with anything, so I like to get people who've actually gone through things, went through the whole process of being diagnosed, getting therapy, getting that help, and share their story as well.
Definitely. I think you can definitely tell when somebody has turned their pain into purpose.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
think it comes across naturally. There's a level of passion that I don't think you can get from somebody who's just enthusiastic about the topic. You can tell
Mm.
the difference.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel that being a Tamil man in caregiving roles, both as an SEM worker and a mental health content creator, challenges certain cultural archetypes? Has that affected your identity? How has it been?
For me, starting this whole journey of obviously promoting mental health, I'd say in terms of my own identity, it's made me go closer to my culture. Like like before I mentioned, I grew up in Hertfordshire. I'd use the phrase coconut. I was a bit of a coconut growing up because not that many people tumbled around me, didn't know much about my culture background. What really piqued my interest was obviously in terms of being Tamil was the 2008-9 documentary about the mass genocide that happened. And it made me deep, like this is the background I'm from, this is the culture I'm from. And then over the years, I did more and more research. But then when I started doing more mental health stuff, like I said, when the girl opened up to me, stuff like that, it made me do lots and lots more research. And like, especially for my dissertation, I read through many data around like generational trauma, Tamil people experiencing PTSD through the Civil War and stuff like that. And like in terms of my identity, it just made me closer. And like I'm happy to say I'm Tamil, and that's the identity I go with.
Tamil culture often celebrates achievement but avoids a lot of emotional nuances that come with
Mm.
it. I
Yeah,
think that's quite fair to say, wouldn't you?
yeah.
How do you think this imbalance shapes the emotional architecture of Tamil boys as they grow up?
I'd say, for example, like our generation and like the generation before us, it had a negative impact in terms of like being emotionally vulnerable because you this whole idea of like you have to be the man of the house, you can't cry, there's certain things you can't do, you can do. But I think this generation, so our generation and like the generation that's coming up now, I feel like we're going to change that due to
Mm.
the awareness and like more people speaking up about it. I'm seeing a lot more people speaking up against like cultural stigmas that have been placed by like the previous generations and stuff like that. So I think for the future of the Tamil men, I think it will be in a better place in a couple of years' time, hopefully. But I do think it's changing slowly.
Definitely. I think it's slowly changing. I think
Yeah,
there is a lot of hope for the generation, our generation, the next generations to come as well.
100%. Yeah. My friendship circle of Tamils is very slow. Like I'm very close with my cousins and
Is
like
that the guys that were there the other day?
yeah. Those are the people I'm close with in terms of like Tamil people. Like I kept my distance because of previous experiences as well. But like yeah, there are some tapped individuals out there.
I think that is so. I feel like the thing about Tamil individuals, right? We go through. I got sexually abused
Mm.
a lot by my mother's two brothers, so it was interfamilial. So I got
Oh,
abused from the age of 7 to 13, and I was like, sorry, I should have been like trigger warning. I'm so
yeah, no,
sorry.
no, it's fine, it's fine.
Okay,
Yeah, no, it's fine, it's fine.
and you know what? Like, I knew from day one I couldn't tell anyone.
Mm.
Like, I remember I had like
That's how messed
what
up
was
it is
it?
sometimes.
Sorry.
That's how messed up it is within like
Yeah,
yeah,
you know what? It's so common, and I've never spoken about it in depth. But I feel like this is like the perfect place to speak about it.
yeah.
If you get uncomfortable, if it's a bit too much, do let me know.
No, I'm perfectly fine. Like
Because your face just
I'm
didn't.
happy that you want to open up about it.
Yeah, because I feel like I've never. If I because I always have the thing in my mind is if I were going to open about it, I would say it like in a public way. It's going to be
Yeah,
in a meaningful way, and I feel like this is meaningful enough. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
I feel like I knew from day one I couldn't tell anyone.
Mm.
The abuse went on for 5 years. They even lived with us. What, 5 years? 6 years it's happened. I knew I couldn't tell anyone. And school was never like it's a safe place. I felt safe enough that I had
Mm.
an absolute emotional breakdown. This girl, she wasn't my friend, but she was we were like close enough, and
Yeah,
she was like, "Oh, so my friend." I don't think she even had a friend.
yeah.
Like I don't even know if she had a friend or she made it up because I think she knew. She was like, "She's gone through this," and I had an emotional breakdown, and school had to help me.
Thank
And
you.
and everybody was like, "Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you tell us? We could have just kicked him out, kept it quiet." Da, 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 da." And I'm like, "No, you wouldn't. Who are you lying to?"
Yeah,
Even I remember my own biological mother coming into my room the next day. I screamed at her. I remember this so I can close my eyes and I can see it already. She was
yeah.
like, "You know what? You could tell me if you're lying. You won't get in trouble. It'll be absolutely fine."
This is what I hate. It's not even like believing you, it's just more like questioning what you come
Yeah,
out with.
it's like
Crazy.
I'm a liar, and I was like, okay. And then at one point, I left home, right? Because I was like, you know what, enough. My family was always so physically, emotionally, verbally, and my mother was very religiously abusive as well. And I was like, you know what, enough's enough. One last incident, I was like, you know what, I'm leaving home. I emailed the police officer that was working on a sexual abuse case. Sent police officers over on a noise complaint. Um, and I was like, okay. I was like, and I left, and I was like, it's peaceful. It's so
Mm.
peaceful.
Yeah,
Even I'm living at like I was in hospital, then I was at like foster places and stuff. And I was like, my mind, like there's other like adversities going on and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I'm so peaceful right now. I feel an instant relief just
yeah.
not being in the
Okay,
same
nice.
household. And I remember like I didn't have contact with my any of my family members. But all of a sudden, I did, and they didn't believe me. They were trying to like be like, "Your parents are good people. Your parents are good." If my parents were good people, that I would have, left.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think one thing, and they continue to be like that. Some people are like your parents, my parents. And I'm like, no, I don't want to talk about it. And
yeah,
even with my grandmother, I was like, she kept going on about, but I was like, she's an old woman. She doesn't understand. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, of
She's in her
course.
80s or something. But then there was at one point where I'm like, you know what? I do understand that she's old, but boundaries are boundaries. If you can't understand that, that's a problem. And I said, no, I'm not coming back. I will never come back. I will not even come to their funeral. I had to say it like that. It affected
Mm.
her. But I'm like, it should affect you.
Yeah,
In my head, I
100%.
was like, it should
It's
affect you because you don't understand the emotional turmoil. And I'm like, you know what the thing is? I said one thing in court, which kind of, you know what? It's so perfect. It leads on to the next question that I had.
yeah,
Um, and I said in court, it made the judges cry. It made the people in the courtroom cry as well. I said, you know, one day I'm gonna be so fucking successful. You wish you were in my life. You wish you
Mm.
had even small access to my life, and you will never
Yeah,
have that access. I'm going to be successful one day, and you wish you were part of it. And I don't know. I think it's that. I think it's more the fight that made people cry. The fact that I had fight left in me, and I still do. And I think it's so important for. Yeah, we've. One thing I maybe a bit more. I think it's the severity of the abuse makes me think like that maybe, but I feel like there's no excuse for abuse. I
100%.
feel
Yeah.
like there's reasons why people turn abusive, like trauma,
Yeah.
like for example, genocide that we've
Mm.
Sri Lanka Tamil people, our Elan Tamil people have gone through, but
Mm.
still it's not an excuse to abuse your children.
Never an excuse. Your trauma is never an excuse to carry out such vile acts. But I just want to say, like, your story, I think, is so inspirational because it shows how much, even with everything that you went through, a lot of people would instantly just give up. But with
Mm,
your story, you've put yourself above anyone else, and you've literally, yeah, you took that step of obviously moving out. You fought till the end, and you're the
absolutely.
winner. You've won in this story, and I think that's so inspirational.
Sorry. I don't know why I'm laughing. I think maybe it's the compliments. But yeah, I think you need to fight. I feel like in the thing I feel like a lot of people are afraid to do, understandably,
Yeah.
because we've been conditioned to be accepting of everything that's happening around us as
Mm.
Tamil people. But he's never if something's not okay, we need to say something about it.
100%.
And I feel like one thing that people don't understand is the impact of abuse. Like for example, like I self-harmed.
Mm.
There's I've been sectioned probably over 30, 40 times.
Yeah. I see you have the My Sober app. Some of
Yeah,
my
I do.
friends use it as
And
well.
recently, because of a situation, I broke it, but I was 2 years, nearly 2 years.
Mm.
2 years.
That's
Yeah, I've
that's
made
that's
it.
big in itself. That's definitely big
It
in itself.
is. It's absolutely massive. But life circumstances that happen, but you just bounce
Yeah.
right back.
100.
Might take a while to do that, but it's okay. And I
Yeah.
think there's always this thing of survival, right? And survival and self worth don't always go hand in hand.
No, they don't.
Survival doesn't always equal self worth.
Yeah.
My question to you is I think, because we consulted with people that listen to us and as well
Yeah.
as the Tamil community when we do create questions for our podcast for people that don't know.
Yeah.
We consult different audiences depending on what guests we
Yeah.
have on. Their question is when success becomes a survival strategy, where does self worth fit in? That's
Oof.
good, isn't it?
Oof. So success is a survival strategy. When does self-worth come in? So are we saying like when you're about to become successful or when
Yeah,
you're on
or
the
like
path
any
of
small success in your life. I think as Tamil people, I think we put so much value
yeah,
on success because of the life circumstances that we've had. Most of
100%.
us are refugees. Most
Yeah,
of us have gone through genocide.
100%. Yeah.
So we want to succeed. We want to see our children succeed.
Yeah.
Um, but where does that self worth in? Do the South Asian community put self worth at risk because of the desire for success?
I think to be successful, you need to have self-worth. You need to prioritize yourself above anything. To me, self-worth, self-love, that concept is like the first layer of protection for anything, whether that's protecting yourself from mental health difficulties, protecting yourself from others, protecting yourself from evil eye. I'm a big believer of evil eye. I think
Mm.
self-love and self-worth is should come first. I think that is key to success. If you don't put yourself above anyone or anyone or anything, I think success will be difficult to grasp. So I think to become successful, you need to be self-worth. You need to have self-worth and you should never risk it, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I agree. I think self worth, I think, is not valued in the Tamil community.
Yeah,
And I feel like, you know what, when you value your self worth, you're called selfish. Yes,
yeah.
I'm selfish. If
You
it
have
means
to be
being
selfish.
selfish, it
You
means
have
being
to be.
selfish, right?
I think if we're talking about Tamil culture and like our community, we're from a community where I think a lot of Tamils, it's in their nature to put other people above them, whether that's like your family back in Sri Lanka, whether that's a girlfriend, whether that's a group of friends, whether that's a sibling, which I understand. But end of the day, you can't. Someone said this to me a couple of weeks ago. It's like you can't pour from an empty cup. So you need to obviously fill your own cup first. You need to look after yourself first. And obviously, love is a very important aspect in life. And if you don't love yourself, you're not going to be able to love others or love anything you do. And therefore, you need to love yourself first. And in my
Mm,
opinion, to then go on to be successful in anything and everything you do.
absolutely. And even if somebody is, treating you well or success is treating you well, if you're not at place to receive it, if you have holes in your cup and
Mm,
there's water still being poured in it, that you're
yeah,
still not going to receive that. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, 100%.
I don't know if you agree, but I think it's our constant strive as Tamil people. I'm sure it's like this for many cultures, but we're talking about Tamil people specifically today.
Yeah.
But I think the constant striving for validation, whether it's through what like marks you get for your exams or job or status,
Mm.
I think it does become a subtle form of trauma or a
It
symptom of
does.
trauma.
Especially, it's interesting, like, for example, you said like marks or like exams. I think from a young age, you get fed this concept of you need to do it for other people. So, like, for
Yeah.
example, as a kid, you need to pass your exams for your parents because your parents have done this much, which obviously, as a Tamil, we should all be grateful from the difficulties and like the struggles your parents faced from Sri Lanka. And like, for example, like my dad and parents came from Sri Lanka in the late 90s. So 1999, they came down. And then I'm lucky to say that I'm born here because like I went Sri Lanka for the first time 2 weeks ago and like I saw where my parents grew up and stuff like that. And it made me appreciate life so much more. So you definitely should obviously appreciate what your parents have done, what your family's gone through, what other people do for you. But then in our community and like South Asian community or whatever community you're from, we are fed this idea of you need to do this because they've done this. You know what I mean? Like we need to pay back our parents. But essentially, you don't really owe them anything like that. That's stuff like that comes in the future. So like once
Mm.
you found your passion, once you found your self-worth, and once you're comfortable with yourself, that's when you can go on, okay, I can do this for my parents now. I can do this. And it should come from the heart. You should never feel forced to do things. It should
Mm.
come from the heart naturally. So yeah, that's another thing I want to add on as well.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I feel like people have construed what it means to be like give back.
Mm. You
I
should
think you
never
need your
expect anything from others. That's another thing. Like you should just do things out of your own kindness, just your own heart. You should never like expect things from anyone else. Like you shouldn't do things and then be like, oh yeah, that person now needs to do that for me. Or like a very common one is like you get someone a birthday gift and you're expecting for them to give you something for your birthday, but that's not how it works. You know, you should never expect anything from anyone.
no, but you know what I thought you were going to say. So, I don't know if you've gone through this, but I know it's a very common thing in like Tamil South Asian culture. If someone gives you £50 in a book, you're gonna
Oh
write
my
that
god.
down in £50 in a
Oh
separate.
my
There's a
god.
separate fucking book for it.
Like
Fifty
I
pounds
know my
from
like cousins who are
Raj.
listening to this as well. There's this whole concept of like when we get invited to like a family function or family party, you give £50 in the envelope and then you keep track. And then in the next like family event that you have or they have, you need to owe that back. It's such a stupid concept. It's
Yeah,
such a stupid concept.
and I'm like, £50. I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, why are we keeping record? Like whether it's New
So
Year's, whether it's your
stupid.
birthday, your Holy Communion, your
Yeah.
whatever, the money's coming back. I'm
It's,
like,
and it's sad, like people carry out functions to get back money they've given. You know what I mean? There are some people who's like, oh, it's been a while since we've done something and we've given out so much to other people. Let's have one so we can get back. It's like, no, it's like so cringe.
I think that's just absolutely deranged to be
I
doing that.
know it is. It is.
Absolutely deranged. No, you know what? I'm gonna say my family, they're crazy in so many other aspects, but
Mm,
at least the money part, they do the writing in the book. Don't get
yeah.
me wrong. Like I remember this time, right? I made my cousin a handmade card, right?
Yeah.
But I used printer paper. I didn't use card or anything like that. And you know how it's like thin when you put it in an envelope,
Yeah.
like money thin. My uncle comes up and he's like, no, 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 no money, no money, no money. And I'm like, he didn't even let me speak. He's like, no money, no money, no money. cast one, and I was like, it's a card. But but I feel like people in Tamil communities, bro, they refuse money, not out like like because it's like you don't accept money from other people. It's seen as selfish or greedy or whatever. But
Yeah.
also, I feel like they don't want to accept the money because they need to get the money back.
Yeah, no, I think that's the main reason why. Because if they set the
Yeah,
money, then they got to give it back. But like, and through my own experiences and seeing other people, money has ruined relationships, especially in Tamil community. So that's for me personally. That's why I would never ask people for money or accept money from other people,
Pioneer.
just because just because of how it's ruined relationships.
Yeah, people give too much value to land. I know land has a lot of value,
Oh
but why are
my
we fighting over land? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Oh my God. Like growing up, I've seen like my parents' siblings like absolutely finesse them as well. So like watching that's just put me off like that whole idea. It's like it's just so sad to see like brothers and sisters like fighting over money and land. Like what?
yeah, you know what? I feel like what parents should do is have 12 children and allocate each one a month. Like easy,
Yeah,
done. Or like some even number, like a good
yeah,
number where you can divide by 12. But like January she did this. And you know what? One clever thing my grandmother does, right? She split the she's not dead, God forbid. Not anytime soon, hopefully.
yeah.
But like makes good food. Do you know what I mean? Like and there's other good qualities about her. But like she split her land up already. So when she dies, there's no problem.
Fair enough. The problem,
But yeah,
so the problem will be after she passed away, so she doesn't have to deal with it.
yeah, she's like, I've split the land. And then she's literally signed it off and given it.
Oh,
Like, it's
already.
done. It's not like a
Fair.
will. No, 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 it's gone.
So no one,
It's
yeah, fair enough. So no one can say anything.
no
That's
one can
smart.
say literally
That is
anything.
smart. That is smart.
No, no, she's a matriarch. Trust me, if she wants something, she gets it. She doesn't ask for much. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. How do you how do these deeply rooted expectations evolve or clash when Tamil young people grow up in diasporic
Yeah.
settings where Western values of
100%.
individuality and expression are more encouraged?
Yeah.
Collectivism is very much Eastern
Yeah. Yeah.
world. We're not collective people in the Western
Yeah.
world.
Um,
So
so I think it comes down this whole idea of generational trauma in a way and like toxic behaviors being passed on. I think that's one thing. So like for example, like this whole idea of like fighting over money and land, I think we display that, but not so over money and land. It could be fighting over other things. You know what I mean? I'm trying to
mm,
think of an example. Money, like I say, I've seen like Tamil young kids fighting over money or like fighting over like relationships. Like that's like you know what I mean. Like these toxic
yeah,
behaviors do get passed on, and it's that whole idea of like generational trauma, intergenerational trauma, behaviors getting passed on. What they've witnessed, like parenting styles is another thing as well, and attachment styles. I think that what is affecting the younger generation now.
yeah. I think parenting styles are still more stricter than ever at points, or they get
Yeah,
extremely loose. Like like
yeah,
there's no
it's
boundaries and
one
nothing.
extreme
It's
or the
one,
other. I agree. I
yeah.
definitely agree. There's not a
There's no
balance.
middle ground.
Yeah,
And I have two younger brothers, right? You're much younger than me,
yeah,
and I'm like that. My parents are very different with them. Ever since I went into care, and they're very generous or very whatever.
yeah,
Um, I think that stopped. The generosity part stopped, but they're still very lenient in some ways.
yeah,
Not too strict, but like not too loose either. It's middle, but I know it's much on the loose end compared to where
yeah.
I was growing up with, and I think that says a lot because I'm like, how does that work? Do you understand what I mean?
Mm,
Like I think it's a lack of care and understanding of a child's individual needs.
yeah,
And I think as Tamil parents, I think they come into the Western world, they work like a slave.
yeah,
And I think they realize that I think yeah, money is definitely very important to survive in such a
yeah.
with the cost of living crisis, the way the world is. But at the same time, you can't neglect your children.
100%.
I think neglect plays a massive factor in the
Yeah,
behaviors that you know.
yeah, 100%. I think trying to think neglect. I'm trying to think. I don't know much kids being neglected now. I'd say like this new generation of kids, I think they are lucky in the sense where the Tamil people that have moved out of Sri Lanka, they're in a more comfortable position. But like I'd say maybe our generation, so like the early 2000s, late 90s, I think they went through a lot of neglect. But I'm seeing like those kids that went through that neglect, they either go on to be great parents or they either go on to be bad parents. So it's like we said, the one extreme or the other.
Mm. Many, I think a lot of the Tamil families they carry a lot of history of like migration, refugee, being refugees, being in through genocides and loss. How does that legacy shape the emotional vocabulary of the next generation, do you think?
Um, so obviously our parents that went through that,
Mm,
emotionally, they didn't get any support. Emotionally, they didn't have anyone they can open up to or talk to. It's like I said earlier, the idea of they have to deal with it themselves. They had to go through everything themselves. They didn't have the right access to support or anything like
mm,
that. And I feel like that ideas kind of have been forced onto us as well.
mm,
But then, like I said, our generation, I think we are breaking that generational curse.
mm,
And slowly, I think that emotional vocabulary will eventually change. I've always had this vision of like future Tamil people like sitting, listening, actively listening as well to each other, talking about emotional vulnerability. And I think, like you said earlier, slowly, I think that emotional vocab is changing, but still a long way to go.
I think it speaks to the dissonance between
Mhm.
being raised by survival oriented parents while yearning for that emotional safety and expression, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. And I think, like, in your experience, right, how do Tamil parents, it could be your parents or your family's parents or
yeah, yeah,
your friends' parents, unspoken wounds manifest in their parenting? And how do children, it can be you or somebody else,
yeah.
unconsciously carry these wounds forward? By the way, is your neck okay?
Yeah, it's fine. Sorry. It's just that
Okay,
my
I was
hair's
like,
really long. My hair's really long at the back, so I'm just straightening it.
you need to
Um,
get a pair of straighteners.
Yeah, it's just because
Like,
basically I can't get my hair cut because of when I went to Sri Lanka, we went to the temple. So because of the puja that we did, I've been told I can't cut my hair, so it's growing out like crazy. But luckily I can get it cut tomorrow. Today's the last day, so that's
uh,
fine. But
you're ready to run.
I can't wait. Honestly, I can't wait. And I haven't had like meat or anything as well, so I can break that tomorrow. But so from my personal experience, thankfully, because like I said, I think I've educated and become more aware of the wounds that they've been carrying. I'm able to almost acknowledge those wounds, acknowledge
Mm,
it, not dismiss it, and like not essentially be affected by it, but be more like empathetic towards those wounds.
mm,
But then I do think there are some obviously kids out there and like people my age who probably don't acknowledge those wounds and don't really know about it. So they're kind of like they're carrying it, but not knowing the deeper meaning behind it, and like not really knowing what the wounds really mean or like how to like heal those wounds.
mm. I think healing's often looks like when your trauma isn't yours, but it lives in the way that you were loved or protected.
Yeah,
And I think that's another issue. I think when it comes to older people dressing, so that's the way we've always been. That's the way that we were raised. That's the way, but it doesn't make it right. Do you understand what I
no,
mean?
yeah,
Because I'm sure they can agree with if we talk about work, the way they were treated, like when they first came to the country,
yeah,
and now it's significantly different. It's not is it now is definitely not significantly better, but it's significantly different, right?
yeah, yeah.
You can recognize that, but they can't recognize their own
Our
practice.
own, yeah, 100%.
So Tamil, I feel like Tamil masculinity. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like like in this episode, I'm saying correct me if I'm wrong a lot because I'm a female and you're a male. Like
Yeah,
we'll have different perspectives on things. I just want to double check. But for me, in my perspective, right, Tamil masculinity has historically, I think, is currently being framed through duty, silence, and sacrifice.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
sure.
I've yeah, I think it sounds like an outdated stereotype, but it's not because there are still
Mm,
those expectations of you need to sacrifice all these things, you need to be carrying out these duties and stuff like that. And I'd say for me as well, in my household, I'm the youngest of five, but I still feel like I need to be doing more than what I should be doing. But I think
Mm,
I don't know whether that's like a natural thing or like that because of that whole idea of Tamil masculinity. But like I just always feel like I'm not saying it in a bad light as well. I think I'm happy, like I want to be this idea of being the man of the house. Like I feel like that's probably something that has been engraved in our mind from a young
mm,
age as well.
yeah. I think it says a lot. Like for example, like my father, right? He is not the youngest sibling,
Mm,
but he's the youngest guy. And I
okay.
think it's the idea of the youngest guy who lived for until like that is going to be the last one living or something.
Yeah.
Because my grandmother, she goes to other houses during the summertime or on, whatever, or she goes back to Sri Lanka or whatever.
Yeah.
But she will stay at our house. Like that's our full-time residence.
Oh, okay.
I think, but there's people younger than it. My father, he has two sisters,
Mm,
and then there's like six brothers who are older than him. But like I think it's like that male thing's like you look after your mother until she dies, or you look after your
yeah.
relatives until they die. You're gonna keep sending money back home.
Mm,
You understand? Like
yeah.
even if you have no money, you're gonna go to your overdraft to get that money
100%.
back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you kind of answered my question without me even going into the question. And I think, yeah, do you feel any like maybe it's not like direct pressure, or do you feel any sort of pressure to up to what's the word to meet those standards
This.
of
So I like to say I'm a bit of a anomaly when it comes to the Tamil masculinity like stereotype because I'd say there is no pressure for me to do it, but like I feel like I've just developed this idea of wanting to do it naturally and like I don't see it in a bad way at all. Like I
Mm,
know like what's on the line and what I need to do and like I don't put any pressure or stress on myself because I just believe naturally I will eventually get to that point where I can, be able to look after my parents, doing all of those things in a couple of years' time. Like I am still young, like I'm very aware, my parents are also aware, therefore that there's not that like idea of pressure. But like
mm,
yeah, like I view myself as a bit of an anomaly, and I think I'm comfortable being in that position, but like I believe no one should feel that pressure anyway to do so. Like if you feel like you're not that person who's gonna do it, I think you need to take it's like a bit of a process. Like I think it's any man's dream, whether you're Tamil or not, to be, financially stable, looking after your parents, sending money back home. But I think you should never feel pressure to do it within a time constraint. You
mm,
should do it at your own time when you feel comfortable to do so.
absolutely. Have you ever countered resistance internally or externally when trying to show vulnerability in a community that equates it with weakness?
Oh, no. And I want to firstly, obviously, say thanks to my sisters for that. I think my sister's the one who openly, like with open arms, put this idea of being vulnerable, opening up and stuff like that. And it's not a sign of weakness. That's something I learned from them. It's more of a sign of a strength. So like so like through open talk, because I branded it as a mental health page, mental health helpline, sorry. When anyone who reaches out to me, I always say like, what you've just done now is the biggest sign of strength. That is the first big step because it takes a lot to like show vulnerability, especially when there's people against you, especially if you're from a culture that shows that being emotionally vulnerable is a sign of weakness, but then you're doing the opposite of that. It's a strength, in my opinion, because you're fighting against all the odds. You're fighting against this whole stigma in itself. So, like I said, I think opening up is always a key sign of a key strength, and it's like the first big step in anything, whether that's you're mentally vulnerable or you have a problem or whether you're in a situation that needs to be solved.
What costs do you think Tamil men in general pay for emotional repression, and what generational toll does it create on like partners, like children, or like the community? I feel like I'm making you think a lot.
No. I like these questions because they make me think. It affects everything around us, in my opinion, if you suppress your emotions. I think keeping
Mm.
your emotions locked into yourself, it essentially affects your relationships. It affects your ability to carry out day-to-day functions, whether that's going to work, whether that's, going to meet friends, whether that's going to the gym, any form of activity. I think suppressing your emotions has a bigger impact than you think. And it it gives off a negative idea to other people. So I think in terms of like what toll does it have on the future generations, it does have a very big toll because like we learn behaviors socially. We model behaviors from our role models. So like for example, like if a kid saw his dad suppressing his emotions or saw his dad never speak about emotions, never heard him say, "Oh, I've been upset," or "I've cried," or seen them cry face to face, I think that kid will then grow on to
Mm.
carry out the same thing, not talk about emotions, not carry it out. And like long-term consequences of that is essentially it's going to affect your relationships, it's going to affect many things. Like, for example, I like Tamil movies a lot. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a film that I always talk about is Muna, because that's a film that attempted to talk about mental health. And I always will appreciate that film for trying, attempting, but its portrayal of bipolar was very inaccurate. But the main message I got from the film Muna is how Danish's character in that film, he never opened up, he never wanted to reveal his disorder or the struggles he was going through. And essentially how that ruined his relationship. And like obviously the end of the film we see his take his life, which is a very extreme example of emotional suppression, but I think it shows the major consequences of it. And like the things that we love will slowly drift away if we, do not show that vulnerability.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the one thing about the Tamil culture, right? I feel like it weaponized men crying, like
Mhm.
with families around. So they'd be
Yeah.
like, for example, if my father was crying, I've never seen him cry. Like I've
Mm.
only seen that man like laugh once. Like
Yeah.
I think I said something to my grandmother and it made him cry like later on that night.
Oh, okay.
And somebody said, I think it was yeah, it was my mother, and she said, "You made your father cry." Like it was more weaponized. And you know what? And you think this is a voice me only situation, but it's so common for a man crying to be weaponized and used against you.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like,
It's
you
almost
would,
like it's a sin to cry. And
yeah,
like if you cause them to cry, then it goes on to you as well. And it's,
yeah.
yeah, it shouldn't be like that.
This is a good question, I feel like. I feel like it's a good question. I personally think so. If you had to rebuild a definition of Tamil masculinity
Yeah.
from the ground up, right, what traits would you choose to keep, evolve, or completely discard
Oh,
altogether?
okay. So one I would discuss straight away is the idea of Tamil men can't be emotional. So can't show
Mm.
emotional vulnerability. Discard that straight away because I think they need to be vulnerable to get like this whole idea of being successful and stuff. You have to be vulnerable. You need to go through those lows and you need to be able to be open about those lows to reach the highs. Because if you go through things and you keep it within yourself, you're just digging yourself a deeper hole and you're not going to be able to come out of it. So as a Tamil man, I think emotional vulnerability is very key. It's okay to show those signs of weakness. It's okay to cry. It's okay to, like talk to someone about your mental health. I think I'll definitely discard that 100%. One thing I'll definitely keep is this idea of protecting women because in the world, from what I've witnessed, like for example, like I used to go to like clubbing and that, not really like Tamil events. I've only been to a few, but like seeing like this idea of women being preyed on by other weird men, I think us like the men that aren't weird should be the ones that need to stand up for them and protect them because they're so valuable and we need to protect our Tamil women. We need to protect women in general anyway. But one of my pet peeves is like if I go to an event and I see someone moving a bit crazy or mad, it really gets to me. That's one reason why I don't like to go to clubbing and stuff like that because I'm too aware of my surroundings. I focus too much on what other people are doing instead of enjoying the moment. But yeah, I think that idea of like protecting women, and like helping them when they need to. Obviously, I'm not trying to say, oh, women can't look after themselves. Women 100% look after themselves. They are very strong, but there are moments where we should be able to protect them and they should be able to protect us. So I think that idea I'll definitely keep as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You know what find annoying and frustrating? I like the idea of women being strong. I do like it and I admire it. But when
Mm.
for women like I'm able to look after myself, yeah, you're able to look after yourself. There's certain things
Yeah.
the world, the way that it is, it
Mm.
makes you vulnerable,
100%.
automatically vulnerable. There's no that doesn't matter with the way you dress, the way that you behave, the way nothing. You're automatically vulnerable just by being
There's
female.
only so much that we can do. And like
Mm,
there are weird men, there's weird women as well, but like in this context, like there are really weird people out there that we can't do anything about. And
yeah,
like you need with situations like that, you're gonna need that help and you're gonna need someone to step in. And then that's why I said I feel like keeping that idea of men having to protect their woman is very key.
absolutely. And I think that that's so. I feel like it's like I'm gonna be honest with you. If I'm the sort of person, I don't care who you are, whether female or man. If I see something happen to you, I'm going to say something.
Step you have, yeah,
And I don't expect, but yeah, I do expect actually. I expect somebody, if something ever was to happen to me in public, somebody to stand up for me. I don't care if you're a woman, I don't care if you're a man, I don't care if fuck who you are, for you to stand up for me
stand up to
if
the
I'm in
justice,
danger or
100%.
help me. You don't need to actively get involved. You need to call the police or whatever it is,
Yeah.
but just don't be a bystander. Do you understand what I mean?
Bystanding is one of it's like it is the second worst thing after being a criminal. Just being a
Yeah.
bystander to a crime or a
I
bystander to a
I'm gonna be
situation.
honest with you. I feel like if I could make bystanding a crime, I would.
Yeah.
I feel like there's certain ways I feel like being a bystander is a
Yeah.
crime, but it's very technical. You know, to be
Yeah.
actually, but I'm like, it should be because I feel like everybody has a phone. There's a few people that don't have a phone under
Yeah.
whatever circumstances, but you're telling me you can't call the police. I know we can't trust all police,
Yeah.
but you need to alert somebody to a situation because I know, like, if something happens to somebody, I think I'm going off on a tangent. I will
100.
wrap it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know, like, let's just say, even if somebody got stabbed and they didn't die, I
Yeah.
know I'm going to think about that for the rest of my time and
Yeah.
whilst I'm in the grave. Do you know what I mean?
And
Like,
another thing as well, because I work in a school, when there's a fight, the first people I get onto the people that are watching or recording it for their Snapchat. So like
mm,
always question kids are like, what were you doing? That's what matters. Because like
yeah,
me growing up in school, if I saw a fight, I'll try and be the peacemaker. Like I'll step in the middle. That's always been my nature.
I can imagine.
I've
You
always
give
I've
that,
always been in nature. Like whether even if someone's in the wrong, I think it's just important just to first try and stop it.
yeah,
Who's in the right, who's in the wrong, figure out that afterwards. But
yeah.
try and stop it first. But then, like in the school I work at, I always question the bystanders, and if I find out any of the kids recorded it, I get onto them first. Because I'm like, what are you doing? Like, are you that low? Like, someone's getting beaten up, and the first thing you think of, not to try and stop it, even if they're in the right or wrong,
You
but
got to
just to
alert an
like, stop
adult,
it.
right?
Obviously, there's the extreme case of, let's say, if there's a pedophile or something. That's a whole different extreme that we could talk about later or whatnot. But like in cases where it's just like two kids fighting or whatever, like I think yeah,
You know what? Like I remember in Starbucks, there was this elderly man. He wasn't, yeah, he was elderly. He was like in his 70s. I think he wasn't having non-epileptic seizures. He was having some sort of medical crisis. And there
mm,
was this boy, right? I think he was, how old was I then? I was 18.
yeah,
Yeah, I was 18. I was 18 then. I think he was 18 as well, but he was still in education.
yeah,
In like, I think he was studying for exams or something. But I don't look my age. I look older and I sound older than my age. And the way that I told him off, and he's like, "Who are you? A grown woman telling me?" I'm like, "How old are you?" And I had a feeling that was going to be just a bit older than. He's like, "I'm 18. I'm 18 too." Like,
Oh.
like who do you think? Ugh, yeah, it
Yeah,
just frustrates me. I'm like, I feel like I don't care how old you are, you need to say something. I don't care if you're a 12-year-old
yeah,
telling on a
100%.
year-old.
Stand up, stand up. Always got to stand up.
Yeah, trust me. If trust me, if somebody ever gave power, gave me this country's powers, I have absolute.
I don't know. I think for me as well, like working in a school, when I see like any bit of injustice with a kid, I think that's really helped me like stick up for other people. So now
Mm.
that I do it at my workplace a bit, I can also do that outside of my workplace if I see any sort of injustice.
Yeah, and I feel like if we, I think what's the most difficult if we go back quickly to your workplace, the most vulnerable people. I think the more vulnerable somebody is more
Mm,
difficult to help them
100%.
or get them the support they need to navigate a situation. I think then you're like, you see something outside your workplace, you're like, this is nothing. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
That's how I feel because I'm like, compared
Yeah,
to what they're going through and what's out there in the streets,
yeah. Hate bystanders, but like where I grew up as well, like
Hertfordshire.
yeah, in Hertfordshire, for example. So I used to chill with a lot of, I label them as wannabe roadmen because they try to get into their life, but they don't. And I've seen like my mates like get into countless fights, and like I was in a position where I was very helpless back then, so I had no choice but to be a bystander. But then there was also cases where I've seen them, like earlier I mentioned like the idea of like a pedophile getting beaten up, for example. Like I've seen stuff like that, and to be honest, I hate nonsense. So like you draw a line between when to be a bystander or not. I think you learn that like intelligence over time. But like I said, I think because I've been through it and I've seen it, and
Yeah.
now I'm able to like stand up to certain things.
Yeah, but I feel like but there's sometimes right, like let's just say we use the example of a paedophile getting beaten up, right?
Yeah,
I didn't see anything.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like,
That's why I say yeah,
what's that? I could be right in front. I'm like, really? Is that what's going on?
yeah.
No, it's too dangerous. But I don't give a fuck. Like there's certain things I'm like,
Disgusting.
I'm a, I don't know. I think it's maybe my wisdom. I'm just a black and white person in general.
Yeah, completely
Oh,
get
you
it.
like that as well?
Yeah, bro. I wouldn't say I'm black or white, but like my kids, for example, like
Mm,
basically I have this. Me and my friend, we both SEM workers, my best mate. We always say this. We say I believe everyone's on the spectrum, and then
mm,
obviously some people are just higher than like other people. But yeah, sometimes I through the kids I work with, I see some traits in myself.
yeah.
So yeah.
What does a safe space look like in a Tamil context where emotional privacy and family image are tightly controlled?
Oof.
Oh yeah.
Tightly controlled. So are you saying like where you're able to have a safe space, but like the family reputation is still like
What does
intact?
a safe space, the space, what does the space currently look like?
Well,
In,
currently, yeah, it's like currently what it looks like is you need to make sure your family reputation is intact. You don't tell people about what you're going through, all this and that. But to me, what a safe space is all of that thrown out the window, and like what's being prioritized is whether you're safe, not whether your family's reputation is safe, whether whether people think that you're crazy, whether, for example, if you're getting treatment, whether people know about that or not. I think when a safe space is where you're the priority and not the factors around you are a priority, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Because like yeah, there's idea of like family reputation where you can't say anything to anyone else. You can't disclose this. You can't get therapy because if you get therapy, someone finds out they're gonna look down upon you, all this and that. It's silly. And I think what a safe space should be is where all of that is thrown out the window, but it's your well-being that's being prioritized, and like those avenues of support is open to you and not closed off.
Mm, absolutely. How do we introduce emotional conversations in households where therapy is viewed as indulgent or shameful?
Yeah, I think education firstly
Mm,
is very key. I think especially like for example Tamil parents in this context, I think the best way to get them to to talk about these type of things is in their style, and that is through stories. Since parents like to gossip about other people's like what's happening with other families and stuff like that, I think it's always good to, like share stories around mental health and be like, oh yeah, like for example, like I'll go up to my parents now and then because they are well versed in mental health now through our like family experiences and stuff like that. Like I had an uncle that had depression and he committed suicide. So like we that was at a very young age, so I don't know much about the uncle. But like when I hear his story, like I would say my family's like very well versed in mental health now. And like what I like to do with my dad for some time, be like, oh, like I have this friend who has a brother who has this disorder, and like this is the help he's getting. Oh, he's on this, he's on that, and like it like opens up their mind. You know what I mean? It's like you're educating them their own style, and I think that really helps, like opening those conversations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like one thing that found out from a very young age, unless you've gone through, and I continue. You know what? This fact I'm about to say, I continue to rediscover it every day because it's
Mm.
stupid facts that annoy me to the point where I'm like, mm.
Yeah,
But unless somebody's gone through personal experiences, they are not going to understand. They're not going to
100%,
empathize, and
100%.
if they do, they're one in a million.
Yeah, 100%. Storytelling is so powerful in my opinion. And like personal experiences and stuff like that. Like obviously in a culture where cinema is a big thing, stories we live off. And like I remember my dad used to say stories about Sri Lanka all the time. So then I know the best way to like get them to understand is by sharing other people's story, or
Mm.
like sometimes even make up stories if you have to, that will indulge them in these conversations, and then it will make them more curious, more wanting to develop that emotional vocabulary and like know the importance of like mental health and stuff like that.
In a digital space, which yeah, I feel like you're in that digital space as well, where more men, more Tamil men to be specific, are opening up.
Yeah.
What patterns do you notice in types of pain they're expressing? And what does that say about what's still unspoken offline?
Yeah. So like through obviously on a digital platform, from what I've started, I'm seeing more and more like Tamil men specifically talking about self-care, self-love. Um, I want to speak about one person individually. His name is Eric. I just randomly came across this one video, but he's probably the first guy I've ever seen doing this. He spoke about him getting therapy. He made a just like a like I think it was like a 4 or 5 minute video of him just speaking about therapy and like what it was like and stuff like that. And that to me was obviously like wow. Like I was shocked because like it's very rare for someone to speak about getting therapy in the Tamil community, let alone a man. So like I think right now the Tamil men out there on the digital platform, we are really like defying what was seen before, like how men don't really talk about these type of things, whatnot. But slowly, like I think through different avenues, whether that's, for example, like Eric talking about therapy, I've seen a couple people talking about their self-improvement journey, even like gym TikToks, gym influencers and stuff like that. I think they are vividly speaking about mental health without explicitly saying it, and I don't think they know the true impact of like the content they're making. So I think right now, like we're looking good for the future in terms of like the digital space of Tamil men openly speaking about these topics and stuff like that.
If you could directly speak to a younger version of yourself, let's say 6-year-old Raj,
Yeah.
um, what would you say to him about pain, healing, masculinity?
Oof. No one's ever asked me this, so this is interesting. There's a lot I would say, to be honest. But I think firstly, what I would say is it's like obviously the idea of being open, be open. If I was open to my siblings from a younger age, I think my life would have been so much different back then as well.
Mm.
I think, and also like this idea of masculinity, I didn't know much about it being younger, I'll be honest. So I think I definitely try and embed like how earlier you were saying like what I would take out of that idea of being a Tamil man and then what I would keep. I think I would definitely, now that you said it as well, I think I would 100% tell myself about that. What I shouldn't follow gender. I should follow what I want to be. and like what I want to do growing up. I think that's another idea. But like I said, I think to my younger self, I'll definitely express the idea of, just being open and like mental vulnerable, being emotionally vulnerable is key because like as a kid, I remember I used to run upstairs and cry. I wouldn't cry in front of my parents or anyone because I used to think it used to look so weak. I think a lot of kids, as a lot of people as kids would relate to that, but I did that all the time. I don't remember ever like crying in front of my parents because I'd run straight to my room. But I think it's important as a kid to like cry in front of your parents. You know what I mean? Like it's important to show that sign of vulnerability. So I think that's definitely what I would say to my younger self as well.
What's one uncomfortable truth some families need to face if we're ever going to move forward as a mentally healthier community?
Um, and a comfortable truth is everyone judges. Anyone's gonna judge. Everyone's gonna say bad things. There are people that's gonna be jealous, whatnot. But end of the day, that don't matter because you should be comfortable with your family, yourself, and you should know what's best for your family, not what's best for what other people think is for you guys.
Mm.
So I think no matter what the harsh truth is, people are gonna talk bad about you. But then you need to know as well, if people are talking bad about you, that means you're doing something good as a family. I always say that.
Looking back on our conversation, what's the most important takeaway or message you want our audience to remember?
Um, like I said, something that I always preach is just opening up, being emotionally vulnerable. The idea of being emotionally vulnerable, and like we also touched upon the idea of like being a Tamil masculinity, Tamil femininity, what that is. But end of the day, we don't need to follow the stigma. We don't need to follow these stereotypes. I believe like our generation and the generation to come are rewriting everything. We're breaking these generational curses. And I think actively we all need to make a push. Actively, we all need to like speak up against these things. And I think together we can make it a better future for our community and stuff like that. So, like I said, I think what I want everyone to take away is just continue being open, promote emotional vulnerability to others. It's okay to not be okay. That's another thing as well. And just like together, I think we can just change a lot of generational curses.
Are there any upcoming projects, events, or resources you'd like to share with our audience? And where can our listeners find you or connect with you to stay up to date with your work?
Um, in terms of my work, obviously I upload on TikTok mostly because I think our generation loves TikTok. But I also have Instagram on Open Talk. My TikTok is Rajivan 3008. Make sure you check it out. I just like to upload, like I said, educational videos about mental health, promote self-care, self-love, and also like I try to share some of my own experiences of what mental well-being looks like. So like for example, I do running videos now and then, and that is something I just started as a form of therapy because I needed something to change my mentality, to change a moment of low that I had, and running randomly came to me. I was never a runner, hated running. I used to walk like 400-meter races because I was that unfit. But then because mentally I just needed something, I looked at running, for example, as a therapy, and it's changed my life completely in a very positive way. So like I try and promote that through my content. So yeah. In terms of upcoming projects, I just like to make videos with other people, share their stories as well, just exactly like how you're doing. And I think your page and what you're doing is very inspirational. And I think seeing different people doing it have a big impact in general as well. So yeah, in terms of upcoming projects, I'll just say just stay tuned to see how other people share their stories. And I like talking about mental health topics, life topics as well. So yeah, that's about it.
We will link it down below either way
Yeah,
in either Spotify and YouTube's descriptions. And
yeah.
finally, last question: what is one thing that you're grateful for today?
One thing I'm grateful today. Oof. I'm just grateful. because I came back from work and recording this, I'm just grateful for the job that I do because I think it's opened up my mind a lot, and that job also came to me at a time that I needed a job like this. So I say I'm grateful for my job, and I'm grateful for what I'm doing today. I'm grateful to be on this podcast as well. It's a honor. It's been a while since I've done a podcast like this as well. I think the last time I did a podcast was like 3 years ago now. So it's great to, be on such a great platform. Obviously your work around trauma as well has been amazing. So yeah, I'm very grateful for what you do. So I want to say thank you very much.
No, it's a pleasure to have you on,
Thank
honestly. And that brings us to the end of a deeply necessary and powerfully honest conversation with Raj Sinna. Today, we didn't just talk about mental health, we explored the unspoken legacies that shape how Tamil men are raised, how they love, how they hurt, and how they heal. From cultural expectations to true resilience comes from knowing when to feel, when to speak, and when to break cycles that no longer serve us. Whether you're Tamil, part of another South Asian community, or simply someone trying to understand what healing looks like across generations, this conversation was for you. It's a reminder that no culture is immune to pain, but every culture is capable of rewriting its story. If Raj's words resonated with you, take that energy into your own space, your family dinner tables, group chats, and quiet moments with yourself. Be the one who speaks first, the one who feels out loud, the one who listens without flinching. To follow Raj's ongoing work and advocacy, you'll find all his links in the show notes below. Trust me, his content is a lifeline for anybody navigating identity, masculinity, and mental wellness in the Tamil diaspora or communities beyond. As always, thank you for showing up. These conversations matter because you're here to hear them. Until then, be bold, be vulnerable, and most importantly, stay iconic. Until next time.